I appreciate everybody joining today. I know that in this world we're all often very, very busy, so taking some time out to learn a little bit about what we think is an absolutely amazing, exciting processing platform that we've developed here called UltraShear Technology is a wonderful time to have you join us and learn a little bit. So thank you. And I'm with John, and John is going to take over about half the slides when we get through. John Hollister. So I'm going to start Pressure BioSciences. We're located a little bit south of Boston. We are a company that develops instrumentation and consumables and offers some specialty products, but all related to the field of using high pressure. High pressure is an amazing force of nature. It moves at the speed of sound. You can do so much with pressure. Unfortunately, because pressure can be dangerous, there hasn't been much done with pressure in the area of the life sciences up to now. We're changing that. We learned how to very safely work with pressures that are equal to multiples of the pressure at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, how to safely work. And basically we compress water, and that's what we do. We use the pressure by compressing water. Water doesn't compress very much, so it can contain a lot of pressure, but it's not going to really impact the size of the water in the container. It's going to stay about the same size, so it's not going to explode. So we've done a number of things in pressure over the years, and thanks again for joining us, because we're going to talk about Pressure BioSciences and particularly about our new processing platform called UltraShear. So we're a publicly traded company on the OTC, and so please do your homework before thinking about investing in Pressure BioSciences. Just a very brief overview. We have 3 enabling technologies. We have 39 issued patents and another 24 that are pending. There are 3 different groups. We're going to talk mostly, it's only about 10 slides today, on UltraShear technology. We won't get into pressure cycling technology or BaroFold. They both are very powerful technologies that we have 31 issued slides in those 2. Please go to our website, pressurebiosciences.com, and you can learn about them, or perhaps we'll have another webinar in the near future to highlight some of these other areas that we're in. But we're going to highlight the UltraShear technology, and basically UltraShear is using ultra high pressure with very intense shear forces to make things happen. And to make it very simple, in this case, we're making oil go into water. We've been told from the time we were kids that oil and water don't mix. Well, they do mix now. And it's very important, because when oil goes into water, if it doesn't mix well, and then it goes into a pharmaceutical or a nutraceutical, you may not be getting the right amount of what's in that oil, the active ingredient, we call it, in the oil. So we've got 8 issued patents, 17 more pending. We're going to talk about UltraShear technology and how we believe UltraShear is going to change not just 1 or 2, but multiple industries, as you're going to see as we go along in the talk. Now, again, emulsions are when we mix 2 things together that don't go together, like oil and water. And we are, as human beings, and our plants around us, our pets, are all water-based. So when we take anything that has an active ingredient, let's say a vitamin or a supplement or a pharmaceutical that's in oil, and they mix it with water, and we take it, everybody knows, you read the side of the box, it says mix well before using. That's because oil and water don't mix well, so you got to shake well before using, so that you try to get a mixture of everything. I ask people with their salad dressing, what do they do? And they say, mix it like crazy. You shouldn't have to do that anymore with UltraShear technology. UltraShear technology has a way of mixing oil and water and making the oil so small that it essentially disperses in water. People say it's soluble in water, and it stays in water, and therefore you're going to be able, the body's going to be able to absorb a lot more. So right now there are very big issues with low quality emulsions, and there's emulsions around us all day long. Everywhere we go, there are emulsions, not just oil and water, but emulsions of mixing 2 things that don't go together. Most are oil and water. And the problem is we have to make them work better. And we know as scientists, we know that if you make the oil droplets smaller, perhaps take a drop and turn it into 1,000,000 nano-sized droplets, smaller than a bacterium. If we do that, we know that the body will absorb a lot more out of the oil. So if there's a vitamin A or a vitamin D that's inside the oil, or there's a curcumin or astaxanthin or other supplements inside the oil, or pharmaceutical inside the oil, the best way to get the absorption is to break the oil drop down to as small as possible. That is what UltraShear does. UltraShear has been built to break oil droplets down to very small nano size, smaller than a bacterium. We call it less than 100 nanometers, smaller than a bacteria. And we've proven so far that if we do that, we can get up to 15 times more bioavailability of whatever's in the oil, 15 times more of that vitamin or that nutrient, 10 times faster action in the body, and 5 times better in stability. So by breaking it into a nano emulsion, by changing the oil into tiny oil droplets, we can increase it and make that material far better for the body. This is a schematic. The one on the left, it's about 1,000 nanometers, a micrometer. You can see that the oil on the left is not getting through. Maybe that's the oil droplet skin, or that's the active ingredient. Sorry, in the left, it's not getting through the skin. You make it into 100 to 200 to 500 nanometers, still bigger than a bacteria. Some of them go through the skin. Some of them can be used topically. And then when you turn it into a true nanoemulsion, what we call an UltraShear nanoemulsion, it's going to be able to get through the skin into several layers of skin and bring the active ingredient into where you want it. In case it's an anti-aging cream containing retinol, you want to get that into the skin. So the nanoemulsions that we have are, we think, one of the few true nanoemulsions that we've ever seen in the world today. We can get them very consistently using our patented instrument. We get under 100 nanometers just about every time. Doesn't matter what's in the oil. It can be a vitamin, a supplement, a cosmeceutical. It can be a pharmaceutical. Doesn't matter. We break the oil down and we disperse what's in it into millions of small nano-sized oil droplets, and we increase the bioavailability, the speed, and the stability of it is increased. There's a number of markets that we're going into. We've chosen the cannabis market to start because they have a serious problem in getting what's out in the cannabis oil, getting that into the body. And we can do that. We've proven that to do that much better. But we're going into multiple nutraceuticals, cosmeceuticals, food and beverage area, agrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, and in industrial uses. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to John, who's our head of sales and marketing. He's got 3 or 4 slides he's going to talk about to show you. This is a graphic of what we are going to be building, but the data are already being generated. John?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Well, we are, as Rick said, extremely excited about this new platform that we're launching. It's already being used. We've commercialized some products at this point, but we're really at the outset. We truly believe, and we're familiar with the competition out there and the dissatisfaction that people who are looking for a true nanoemulsion. We believe UltraShear makes the product better. It's much more affordable. It's much faster in terms of production rates because we're using higher pressure, and it's just smarter. We have a lot of experience in pressure. That's the expertise that our company focuses on. And this is using the energy that comes from pressure in place of heat and chemistry. So it's very exciting. Next slide. So this graphic shows you a little bit of how we're better. Every single product that we've looked at that is an appropriate candidate, we can make under 100 nanometers, which is what we believe the threshold is for a true nanoemulsion. It needs to be under 100 nanometers. And the reason for this is it affects the stability. When you get down under, say, 50 nanometers, it becomes a very clear substance. Opaque substances become clear, which is very attractive for beverages and other places. But it also is the absorbability is increased significantly. So we've seen products that stay stable. You see that on the fourth note for more than 30 months at this point. And we see rock solid stability. It doesn't change in clarity nor size. The bioavailability, we've actually seen some data that shows that it's either 3 and as much as 15 times more absorbable than products that claim to be water soluble products. These are products that come off the market. And in fact, we're trying to address one of the issues in the marketplace is people get dissatisfied because people are claiming that products are water soluble, but in fact, they really aren't. We've gotten feedback that the speed to action, for instance, in THC studies, which we have press releases out on, we've been doing a consumer feedback study where we see over and over people are feeling the effects within 5 minutes of their first administration, much faster than what is traditional in the cannabinoid world, where it's typically taking anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour before people feel things, which is very difficult for people to measure, how much do I want, or should I have another gummy bear? And then lastly, the transparency. There are a number of slides that we have, you can see by coming to our site, of different studies we've shown of putting our product into, for instance, a beer. It dissolves, it disperses immediately as if it were water, as opposed to other products right off the market or off the shelf that say that they're water soluble. You pour them into the same beer and immediately becomes cloudy and bubbly. So clearly it's not the same product. Next slide. What else is exciting for those of us who love sales? It's this market is growing rapidly. This is just the cannabis market that's projected to grow from right now about a $30 billion market to a CAGR of over $64 billion by 2029. And it's growing rapidly. It's obviously gone through some adjustment periods in the last 2 years, but very formidable companies are now picking up pace in this space. But this is just one of a number of market segments that we will be going after, who we are already working with. Next slide. Yeah, this is probably a better slide for you to be able to take time to look through, but it just reflects UltraShear relative to other the general intensifier homogenizers that are in the market currently. Ultrasonics, which is a technology that's been around for a long time. I used it back in my vaccines days. It's very hard to scale. Ours is supremely scalable, meaning you can do very, very small amounts, but you can also do huge commercial quantities. And then there are ways to use chemistry to make nanoemulsions, which is what we've tried to avoid. We're trying to focus on non-GMO natural products wherever they can be used, and trying to limit preservatives and other elements in our final products. Next slide. I'll just touch on a couple of these. We're talking about cannabinoids, but I want to make certain that you all are familiar, if you haven't been following our story, that this technology was born out of a partnership with Ohio State University and a USDA grant to look at food products. Ohio State University is one of the leading institutions in the world in food sciences, and we're working with Dr. Balasarubian, who's one of the preeminent scientists in the space. They're initially working, and you see the fourth publication there, effects of pressure, shear, and temperature on the interactions with selected milk quality, because this technology was originally envisioned to make room temperature stable milk, so they could be shipped around in it for disaster preparedness. And Ohio State University has a unit, a full-size commercial scale unit doing research right there. You see on the sixth publication there is some work they did in looking at pea protein, which has a little bit more viscosity. It's their substance to peas, but they're a high rich source of protein that can grow almost anywhere. And so the thought is, let's put emulsified dairy pea protein into other foods to help people who are looking for other sources of food. So these are a couple. We also have been working, as you see in there, with a company, an astaxanthin. We see a lot of promise there, as well as importantly in the Cosmeceuticals with Dr. Dinesh and Skin Sciences. So with that, I think I'll turn it back over to Rick to touch on a few more points.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I just want to double down on what John just said. This story is a lot more than just cannabis. Cannabis is the low-hanging fruit, as we all call it. It's easy to get into. We can solve a problem, and when a company can solve a problem, that's a company that's going to go somewhere, and we solve a big problem. But that problem is not just in cannabis. The problem is when you have an active ingredient in oil and you ingest it, how do you get the oil out? 44% of all new drug candidates are in oil. 44% are in oil. Also a lot of very important cosmeceuticals and nutraceuticals are in oil, and agrochemicals are in oil. And our system, it doesn't care, doesn't matter, what area it's in, what industry it's in. If you have an active ingredient in oil and you're mixing it with water, as we do, we can break that oil down to nano levels. We can make it down very homogeneously. We're very good for dosing because the machine is very accurate in breaking down the oil to the smaller particles below 100 nanometers. And when we get down to 50 or 60 or 40 nanometers, we can get that down pretty close every time. And all of the oil droplets that are in that sample, and it could be gallons or it could be as small as John said. We can go anywhere from very small amounts to gallons and gallons and gallons. So it's a wonderful technology. We have the patents to protect it, and we've now got data and to show that it works well. I'll give two examples. One is with CBD. CBD, unlike THC, does not get people high. It's and yet it's been talked about by many people to have a lot of really interesting properties. And there are a lot of people that would like to get CBD, but CBD is in oil. And we've tested a number of so-called nano or even non-nano, and you're lucky to get 4 to 10% of the CBD out of the oil before your body excretes the oil, as it does within a few hours of taking it. Body says, I don't want oil, I'm going to excrete it. And you're lucky to get, and it's all over the literature, 4 to 10%. We can get that up 3 to 5 times higher because we make the oil droplets so much smaller that it's easier for the body with all that surface area to absorb out the CBD. And we have data that's been generated from probably 50 different people with wonderful testimonials saying how well it worked for them. And we will have data coming from a leading academic institution. We believe in July, it will be published in a peer-reviewed journal showing that the data in an animal study that our material was absorbed very fast, so much faster than anything that the professor who did it had ever seen before. So we're very excited about those data coming out. We think within the next 4 or 5 weeks. The other thing that we did is we work with several groups in California. They have licenses to work with THC. We brought one of our instruments out there, a prototype small instrument. We taught them how to use it. They made nano THC. And they use this in some of their products, and one was a spray product that's used in spraying into the mouth and edible. As John mentioned earlier, most edibles take you 45 minutes to an hour. I have a fraternity brother I ran into at a reunion, I won't say which one, at my university a couple of weeks ago, and he's tried the material, and before he did, he said, Rick, if this works, and it does work, he said, this would be terrific because I need THC to go to sleep, and I have to remember to take a gummy 45 minutes, and if I don't, I go to sleep later. With your nano THC, the results from all of your 3 studies, including the one that went out today, said that almost all people will feel the effects of THC, small effects of THC for sleeping in under 10 minutes, with the majority in 3 to 5 minutes. So he said, now I can take the spray under my tongue, a couple of sprays. I don't want to get high, I just want to relax. I can take it and go brush my teeth, put my jammies on, hop in bed, and I'm ready to sleep. I don't have to worry about taking a gummy 45 minutes before that. So we're very excited because we have multiple people. We've done over 60 people, and pretty much all but 2 or 3 have said under 10 minutes they're feeling the early effects, and they don't take that much. They're not getting high, but they're starting to relax. They're taking the edge off. So we're very excited. You can use that as a surrogate because if it does that with CBD in the rat study, if it does that with THC in the 60 human study, consumer testing study, it means it's doing it with the astaxanthin, the most powerful antioxidant in the world. It's doing it with curcumin. It's doing it with so many other oil-based additives that they're all going to be getting out of the oil and into the body. We think 3 to 5 times more and exceedingly much faster in lightning speed. So at this point, we want to thank everybody for joining and turn it back to Tanya and let Tanya open it up for Q&A.
Thank you so much for that, Rick. So I can see a lot of questions flooding in. Craig is asking that, is PBIO strictly a US play or can it expand to an international? And if so, where? Because he thinks that Asia seems to be a likely good market right now.
I'll turn that over to John.
Sure, Craig, that's a great question. No, we are definitely a global play. We obviously are focused a little bit more in the US, but our base business, we have distribution in Australia, in China, Japan, Korea, and throughout Europe. At this time, we're working towards doing the same in India, as it's now the most populous country in the world, and has a lot of biotech, which has consequences and is very relevant to our first 2 platforms. I've worked at Amgen, so biologics is very near and dear to my heart, as I was also before that in vaccines, and India is a big player in both those areas. As far as UltraShear technology, it's going to be universal. And right now, as we're scaling up for business, we're really focused on the US, but we will definitely be looking at opportunities internationally as we begin to scale. So thank you for that question.
Awesome, John. So we have another question anonymously, and it's like they're asking, that seems like you have quite the story in THC. So what about in the other big cannabis areas like CBD? So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I did mention earlier about the study that the university did. We're very excited about that. We have reason to believe that the results were as we expected. I will go so far as to say that we can't talk about it until it's published, but I can say that we requested that the professor in charge of the program start drawing blood in 5 minutes from the rats, and he mentioned, no, we normally start, maybe in 15 minutes because it takes at least that long for CBD to get into the bloodstream. And we said, we'd rather you start at 5. And he said, you're wasting your money. We said, okay, we'll waste our money. And 3 months later, he called us and said, before we start, let me apologize. You didn't waste your money. I've never seen anything like this, but we actually saw the CBD from your material in the bloodstream in the 5-minute sample that you requested. So we're excited about that study. We're going to be doing other studies. So yes, I had a discussion over the weekend with a gentleman who makes CBN, CBD, CBB, and he said, I can supply all of this to you. Do you think it'll nanomulsify? Because some of these are better for brain, some are better for sleeping. And I said, we have yet to find anything that's in an oil that we can't nanoemulsify. It's not what's in the oil. It's the technology you use, and our patent technology, in our opinion, is the best. So the answer is, in the cannabis field, where we've certainly focused recently on THC, but we are focused also on CBD. And as I mentioned, the Veteran Service team gave us an order about 4 hours ago for 1,000 vials, of which they want 500 vials pretty soon. And so we're very excited to start bringing on more and more distributors of these products.
Awesome. And we even have an anonymous attendee asking that how can they share the information with the manufacturers and get in direct contact with you as a distributor. So do you want to elaborate on that part?
I think John might want to elaborate.
My information is absolutely public. My phone number and email addresses are readily available. So feel free to either have them contact the main number at Pressure BioSciences or send me an email directly to jhollister@pressurebiosciences.com. My phone number typically appears on our press releases, so feel free to give me a call.
Perfect. That
Thank
is
you.
awesome. So, yep. So we have dropped the email addresses and all the required information for them to connect with you directly. And I guess we even have a lot of other questions, but we can definitely send emails to people as well. So what are your ending thoughts, Rick, today?
Oh, my ending thoughts are, I've started 3 prior companies with market caps worth over $1 billion. This one is the hardest company of the 4 that I've done, but it's going to be the most satisfying. The biggest one before was a company that reached a 750 million market cap. It was called Cosmeceuticals, PANC, if you want to look it up. I was the founder or co-founder of Panicos and negotiated all of the IP up front. But they didn't make it in the long run when the VCs took it over because there was a problem with the solubility of the incredible compound that we had developed. That's why this one's different. We have a platform technology. This technology doesn't discriminate between agriculture or cosmetics. I'm looking forward, personally, if you can see, we're working with Dr. Adrienne Denese, who's sold over $500 million of her cosmetics and her skincare in particular on QVC. And we made an announcement a few months ago that we're going to work on developing a hair regrowth for women and for men, and I'm looking forward to that one. So bottom line is we have a tremendous technology. Most of my people have been with me for over 10 years, almost everyone. They're dedicated to the company, they're dedicated to the technology. It's a tough market out there. And when the stock goes from 220 to 40 cents, it makes it even tougher. Companies like us, many companies need to go to the markets to raise money. It's okay because you make the company worth a lot more when you commercialize. So it makes it tougher for us. That's the biggest challenge we have. But we think the stock's going to come back. We think when the story gets out, people will realize how undervalued we are and what a great group of people we have, and that we're going to make it. So I thank everybody for coming on. I'd ask you to do your diligence. As John said, my number and his number, Jeff Peterson, our chairman, his number are all on our press releases. They're on the website. Please come to us. We'd love to talk with you. We're looking for more business. We'll never stop looking for business. Right, John?
Never. Thank you all for attending. Appreciate it. Thanks for your interest.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.